shortstop and third base are sewed up for the next 10 years plus. So, yeah, nobody on that side of the field. And, I mean, hey, can we talk about that, guys? I mean, one of the best left sides of the infield in baseball. I mean, some of the things Manny Machado can do on the defensive side, man, it's fun to watch him play. And obviously, Fernando Tatis Jr. is an absolutely incredible phenom type player who knows what he could have been able to produce if he was able to play an entire year. I mean, one of the most electrifying players in baseball last year.
And welcome back to another episode of Too Much Pod Tar, as we have another episode of the 30 Teams and 30 Pods series. And now we'll be continuing with this series with the Padres, as I have Padres fan David Droegemeier, as if I said that right. I think I did.
Close enough.
Okay. And he has his own podcast on the Padres, and also have with me Johnnie Black from the Scorecrows. I had on our last episode talking about all the Astros scandal. So thanks for coming on tonight, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, doing really well, man. Thanks for having me on. Always love to jump on any kind of podcast and talk sports, especially some Padres baseball. I mean, it's exciting to see some of this young talent start to manifest itself in the big club. I mean, it's been a long time since the Padres have made the playoffs, gentlemen. We're talking 14 years here, so it's a lot of futility to have to suffer through. But it seems to me that some of that talent is starting to reach the majors, and a turnaround is definitely coming soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Alex, as always. And looking to talk some Padres. I'm liking what they're doing, especially with the pitching stuff. But we'll get into that once the show starts.
Yeah, so kind of just want to start off like talking about last season, how if they met their expectations for the season. They kind of did struggle a little bit, obviously, as a young team. They're going to do that. So, I think they kind of finished at a fair point. The 70 wins. It's not terrible for a rebuilding team. So I think they're headed in the right direction. And as that pitching, the young pitching can get started going in the right direction, I think there would be, maybe not this year, this coming year, but the next year or the year after, they'll be set for making runs into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a fair take, but I mean, when you sign Manny Machado to a 10-year, $300 million contract, that comes with some expectations. And the ownership group kind of said, hey, we need to see a tangible difference and a 4-game improvement for a player. Like when you add a player like that, and you also add a phenom like Fernando Tatis Jr., you add Chris Paddock to the starting rotation, you kind of just expected a little bit more than what we got. And in the first half, I mean, they gave it to us. I mean, they were right in the thick of a wild card race. They were, legitimately fighting. And just in the second half, they completely lost all steam and they just tanked. Everybody just completely reversed from what they did in the first half. It was definitely hard to see.
I think that was a large part due to, because I said it last year after the All-Star break, I thought the San Diego Padres were going to kind of fall off toward the end of the year. I think it has a lot to do with the young talent. Now, granted, Machado's not young. I mean, he's young enough, but yes, I would have expected a little more from him last year. But, and I agree with you, 70 wins was a little bit of a disappointment, especially the way they started. But with the young pitchers they had, I mean, Paddock on an innings limit and, coming off injury before and stuff like that. And, with Lucchesi and Strom. Strom was a reliever starter with Kansas City before they got him. They had some issues, I think, and then Tatis got hurt. So, I mean, you had a lot of issues with that stuff in the second half with either injury, fatigue. It's a young team. They don't know how to maintain for 162 rather than, as opposed to 120, 130, like AAA. So, it was kind of expected. I kind of expected it, a little bit of a fall off in the second half, especially like August, September. But I definitely think that the Padres are on the right track. There's no doubt about that. I mean, a healthy Tatis this year, Machado's another year into San Diego, a little more settled in. And,
Definitely.
Take the reins off Paddock, Lucchesi. I mean, you get Lamet. If you have Lamet back for the whole year, who knows what Garrett Richards is going to do? I mean, when the guy, he's always had the health issues. When he pitches, he's really good. He was really good with the Angels those couple of years, and then he's just had the arm issues. I mean, if he can be healthy for at least some of the season, I mean, maybe he turns into like a Rich Hill or an Alex Wood, where you only go to get him for like 22, 23 starts. But if he's going to give you a sub-4 ERA and he's your fourth starter, I don't complain about that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, that's the big question. I mean, he really is the enigma. I mean, his first year with the Padres, Garrett Richards was pretty much just rehabbing, coming back from a Tommy John surgery. And, with those, at least at this point, it seems like everybody who successfully rehabs and, does it the right way and comes back from Tommy John surgery is stronger and throws harder, or it doesn't have any more arm issues. So hopefully, that's the case for Garrett Richards. They also had a full offseason. He only, started a couple of games for the Padres last year. I mean, that was the goal, to try to get him back to see if he could pitch. I mean, you saw some flashes of brilliance from him. I mean, it's funny, watching Garrett Richards, he's always so locked in, so dialed in, so absolutely, fierce whenever he's out there. He's that veteran presence. He's going to do good things for this Padres rotation. Hopefully he's able to lead by example. If he does stay healthy, I mean, we all know what he's capable of doing. He has, top of the rotation type of stuff. He just has to put it together over the course of a full season.
Right. And then what they say, you notice with Tommy John surgery, I mean, Zach Wheeler went through it too, is that even when you come back after the 18 months or so, it still takes you another few months on a major league mound in game to get the command to trust your arm. I remember John Smoltz. Now, I'm not a huge fan, but I remember John Smoltz saying that he had the Tommy John surgery. And he said even when he came back, it took him a good half a season to be able to trust his arm to be like, I can throw whatever I want. Because even when you get back to the competitive part of it, actually on a major league mound in major league games that count, you still, the mentality is to hold back a little bit because you're worried about blowing your arm out again. You have to get to the point where you could just let it fly like you used to, and I think that's why they wanted to see Garrett Richards throw a couple games last year, is to get you on a major league mound, start trusting your stuff. If he is a full spring training and they can work him in, I mean, like you said, he's got top of the rotation stuff. It's just a matter of being healthy, a matter of putting it together. He's playing for a contract. He's 30 years old. He's got the deal with the Padres for this year. He could be very motivated to show that he can maintain his health. And to, that's a little out of his control. But, I mean, as far as performance goes, he's going to be very, like you said, he gets locked in. He's going to be very locked in this year.
Well, he's got millions of reasons to do that this year for sure.
Yep.
And then another thing to note of is Mackenzie Gore is their number one prospect and number 4 overall in the major leagues. He got a spring training invite and is probably going to, even if he doesn't make it out of spring training, he'll probably be there at some point this year. He's expected to, at least. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the only one who got a spring training invite, too. I mean, several of the Padres' top prospects got invites, to include, Taylor Trammell, Mackenzie Gore, like you mentioned, and also another, phenomenal pitching prospect in Luis Patino. Luis Patino is nasty, guys. I don't know if you haven't heard of him. Look him up, because he throws upper 90s, and this is a small guy. I mean, you don't expect this kind of stature, but he kind of is like a Pedro Martinez type, and I know that's a really hard comp to come up with, but if you've seen this guy pitch, I mean, he's absolutely electric. I mean, can top 99. He's just a skinny kid. He's 160 pounds soaking wet, but he has a really athletic type of delivery. It's honestly, it's very similar to Mackenzie Gore's from the left side with the high leg kick. Patino has it as well, and both of these guys are getting invites. And if they show well, I mean, the Padres have already shown that they do not care about clock. They don't. I mean, if you're ready and you can contribute and help them win, then there's a chance that these guys could make the starting day opening day roster here in 2020. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I mean, I think they'll probably wait a little bit on Mackenzie Gore and Luis Patino. Taylor Trammell's probably a little bit closer just because he has more time at AAA. But yeah, those are two guys definitely to keep an eye on, and they are two of the best pitching prospects in baseball. And if they do come up, they can make an impact on the Padres' starting rotation right now.
I'll agree with that. Mackenzie Gore is to me he might be the best pitching prospect right now overall. I mean, he's just the kid. I looked up some of his stats from his senior year of high school, which is pretty funny. He threw these are ridiculous stats, but he threw 74 innings in the senior year of high school. Okay, he had 158 strikeouts and 5 walks, and he had a .19 ERA. 0.19. He gave up like 2 runs. It's 74 innings.
That's just dumb.
I know it's high school, but even so, that's like legendary. You know what I mean? But yeah, Mackenzie Gore's a beast. I mean, dude is classic left-handed, power arm slider. Like he's got the makeup. He's got everything. He's got everything. And I'll agree with you that I don't think Gore and Patino will be up, and Trammell I don't think will be up either. Trammell's almost a fifth wheel. They have too many outfielders.
They definitely do, and that they're going to make some more moves before the start of the season. I mean, they tried their absolute best to try to get rid of Will Myers. I mean, they obviously are having a little bit of buyer's remorse, signing him to this contract where he's going to get paid $20 million each of the next 3 years, where he has vastly underperformed that contract that he has received up to this point. But I mean, nobody wants him. I mean, it's either the Padres don't want to attach enough talent, from their, unanimously known best farm system in baseball, or they don't want to eat enough money. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody wants to touch Will Myers right now. He's one of those guys that's an obvious trade candidate, but they're going to have to find a partner. But they do have a couple of other guys that, they obviously need to get rid of. And they also made trades for guys, which I'm sure we'll get into, to bring in some fresh faces into the outfield as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Padres are done making moves, guys. I still think there's probably 2 or 3 other moves on the horizon.
Oh, I can see that. They're definitely now it's the point of fine-tuning the team, without a doubt. They gotta make the moves because they have a glut of outfielders and a couple first basemen. I mean, we can talk about Josh Naylor coming up or whatever. You still got Hosman there for 6 more years. It's like, but we can move on to the next subject. We'll touch on everything.
Yeah. I just want to take a second to mention the AA team. Like, what the hell this name even is? It's the Amarillo Sod Poodles. Like, what is a sod poodle?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good question. Trust me. But I mean, if you look all around minor league baseball, they always have the most fun with these names. I mean, they're always the most outlandish names that you could ever imagine that you would never associate with a baseball team. But I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's some crazy ones out there. One of our guys, John Superwitz, he's down in Connecticut. He works for the Yard Goats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
like,
come on.
What the hell is a yard goat? I don't know.
Yeah, that's another thing why I hate that Manfred's like saying I should get rid of like 40 some teams, minor league teams. It's like it's all fun. It's all fun. Like everybody loves baseball, so it's like you want to be able to go to a local minor league game. Like keep them all. Like
Well, yeah, I mean that's an opportunity for people to go out there and see some of these phenom players and not have to pay an arm and a leg to go out and get a fun baseball experience. And most of these leagues, especially in the Pacific Coast League, the ball flies, and I mean flies out of the
Yeah.
ballpark. So I mean, it's really fun and interesting, baseball to go watch. And I mean, I know the Padres AAA affiliate, in El Paso, they have a state of the art, like brand new facility, and they've won the PCL championship before. I mean, last year. So I mean, they have some pedigree. I mean, they have some pedigree. Not last season, the season before that. But I mean that there's some pedigree there. I mean, it's good, fun, exciting baseball to watch.
Well, not only that too, with Manfred, I mean, are you trying to grow the game or not?
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to grow the game, why are you taking away all these local teams that are affordable for parents to actually take their kids to?
Yeah.
Now you're taking away the chance to actually watch the game without the hoopla and without paying an arm and a leg to go see it. You know what I mean? You can take your kid to a yard goat game or a sod poodle game or whatever. I mean, for a decent amount of money, and it's like, you'll spend more going to the movies.
Yeah.
So I mean, why are you going to take that away when Manfred's trying to grow the game? He's trying to appeal to the younger generation by making the game quicker, pace of play, and everything like that. But yet he's trying to take away the fun for the next generation, where parents can actually afford to take their kids to a minor league game. You know what I mean? It seems counterproductive, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely is. Like, they even have dollar beer nights, so it's like you literally get like whatever 6 beers for the price of what they have at Yankee Stadium, or even more than that.
No, man. I mean, the beers at Petco Park are like $14 a pop for like a can. I mean,
Anyway,
it's $6 is not. I mean, that's half of the price that they charge at these pro ballparks out there.
I remember going to because I'm from Jersey, and this, of course, this was years ago. But I used to go. Gone to a few Newark Bears games, independent league games. I remember seeing like Pete and Cavilla playing down there and stuff like that. But I mean, you get a ticket for the game, it's like $7.
Yeah.
The hot dogs, $2. You get dollar beer nights. I mean, you can go there, drink 6 beers, have a couple hot dogs, and actually get a ticket for the game and enjoy it for $20.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't even buy a ticket for $20 to go to Fenway. I'm up here in Massachusetts. I'm 8 miles from Fenway Park. And it's like, just to get a ticket to Fenway, it costs me more than I sit in the bleachers. And then, like you said, David, like, you spend $14 on a beer. If you want a sausage sandwich, it's like $10. Like, I mean, it's
unreal.
It's unreal, And if you love the game, I mean, the minor leagues and independent leagues, that's the way to go. It's the way to go, just to watch some baseball.
Yeah.
The Padres made a couple of moves this offseason. They made a couple of key trades. I mean, I think, the big focus for the Padres this offseason was adding some guys that can get on base. That was a huge point of emphasis with, what A.J. Preller was trying to get done this offseason. And, the first kind of big trade that he made was sending Eric Lauer and, Luis Urias to the Milwaukee Brewers in exchange for right fielder Trent Grisham and right-handed pitcher Zach Davies. It's funny, Zach Davies to me always looks like he's 12 years old, and he's been in the big leagues for like 8 years or something crazy like that. But he's a true finesse type of pitcher. He's definitely in a dying breed, I would say. But when he has his pitch mix on, he's definitely hard to barrel up, which, he's a guy that can eat some innings, which this Padres, starting rotation is going to need some guys to do that. Still very young. So to add kind of a veteran presence, he doesn't look like a veteran, but he is a veteran presence there to kind of go alongside, with the other guys. It's going to be a big move. And then Trent Grisham, a guy who just got a little bit of taste of the big leagues last year with Milwaukee is a guy who's specializes on getting on base. I think he's at a 350 plus on base percentage in the minor leagues. So this was kind of the first move that the Padres made this offseason in the attempt to get better. I mean, hey, it's hard to see Luis Urias go, but when you make trades, you got to give up value to get value. And I mean, for me, I kind of like this trade.
I like the trade too. I mean, I liked it. I like Grisham. I think he's a solid player. And I like Zach Davies. I always like Zach Davies. Zach Davies is a right-handed Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the way I look at it. Pitch to contact, pitch to soft contact. Keuchel's always been that way. He's been a ground ball pitcher, not a big strikeout guy. Keuchel was, as he was pitching, he reminded me a lot of Tom Glavine. I mean, of course, Tom Glavine, it's a little better. But, the way they pitch. That change up to the outside corner to the righties and,
sure.
Bust them inside with the fastball. Like just the mixing of speeds, even though you're not throwing 98, you can throw inside at 93 and then drop a 75-mile-an-hour changeup on the outside corner, and it's just as effective.
Yeah, no question.
98 and 80. So, and Zach Davies reminds me a lot of that. I think he's definitely a solid pitcher. And to be honest with you, I think he's a lot better than Eric Lauer.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing what I liked about Eric Lauer is that he always seemed to really get up for facing the Dodgers, and he really owned them. I mean, it's every time that he pitched against them, he would dominate them every single time. So it was fun to watch him do that. And also, he was still very young. I mean, he was early 20s, so he really still has a lot to grow. I mean, he has some good physical tools. He just was inconsistent. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point in his career, Zach Davies has definitely got better stats. And then on the same day, the Padres go out there and kind of bolster their pen, and they add a familiar face, an old Padres all-star and left-handed reliever, Drew Pomeranz. So at the end of last year, Drew Pomeranz was one of the best relievers in baseball. So I think that the Padres are kind of just betting on that potential, betting on that, he's going to be able to replicate that in the bullpen, and he's going to be a nice setup guy for Andres Munoz and, of course, one of the best closers in baseball, Kirby Yates.
Yeah. Closer should have been closer of the year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, he had a 1-something ERA, 40 plus saves. I mean, he was automatic. I mean, also his feature pitch was a splitter. I mean, it's just not a pitch you see a lot in the big leagues. I mean, only a very few guys can throw it with, great effectiveness. And Kirby Yates arguably has one of the nastiest splitters in all of baseball.
Yeah. Actually, last season, I actually wrote a kind of a deep dive on him and like how he kind of came out of nowhere, like just developed that splitter even better. And season he came out and like did what he did, whatever amount of save. What did he have, like 28 saves straight or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, he was incredibly effective. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if the Padres can just shorten the game a little bit, get starting pitchers that can go 6, go 7. I mean, if you can go 6 or 7, I mean, the Padres have a bullpen to where they can get outs. They can shorten games. If they, hand leads over to the bullpen right now as it's currently constructed, I mean, Andres Munoz is nasty. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about him, but he averaged 100 miles an hour last year. I mean, he hit 103. He has a nasty, nasty slider. He is definitely a closer in the making. But right now, he's serving as one hell of a setup man. And, of course, like I said, we all know what Kirby Yates can do. And then Drew Pomeranz, you add, and Craig Stammen, you add to back to the mix. I mean, there's some really, really good quality arms there that can help the Padres win baseball games this year.
Yeah, teams are going to struggle to score runs at Petco. There's no doubt. It's just a matter of if the Padres can score runs.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's kind of why. What's that?
I think their lineup is a little short.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that's why they go out there. That's why they go out there and they pick up a guy like Tommy Pham. I mean, just a real, absolutely professional hitter, a guy that's, capable of, doing 350 plus on-base percentage, routinely throughout his career, a guy who can play good defense for you. I mean, just a veteran presence, the type of guy that you want on your team is definitely going to tell it like it is. I mean, unfortunately, you got to give up Hunter Renfroe and Xavier Edwards, which, I mean, I was a little upset about because I was a huge Hunter Renfroe fan. I know he had the low on-base percentage and the low average, but this is a guy who hit some mammoth home runs for the Padres, throughout his, tenure, and also had an absolute cannon for an arm throughout several people, had, led the league or was up, towards the top of the league in outfield assists for, a couple of years, and also just revamped his defense. I mean, he turned himself into almost a Gold Glove outfielder last year. So to see him go hurt a little bit, but I know what they were trying to do is, another high on base percentage guy like Trent Grisham and an established star, Tommy Pham. You fit him in there with, Manny Machado and, Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, you got a couple of really formidable hitters, in your lineup this year.
Let me ask you this question, David. Who's playing second base? I mean, because I know they got Profar now for 1 year.
Yeah, I mean,
he's going to be the regular second baseman, most likely.
I would say most likely, yeah. I mean, I think Greg Garcia is going to play there some too, but more of a utility role. Although, I mean, he did really good things for the Padres last year. I mean, he was quietly a very, very productive bench piece. So, I mean, you'll see him out there. What's that?
Everywhere. Well, Greg Garcia could play a little bit everywhere too.
Exactly, and then that's where his value is tremendous. I mean, he can adequately play any infield position. I mean, it's definitely undervalued here, and also that I'm pretty excited about is Jake Cronenworth. I mean, he's a two-way player. I mean, from the Tampa Bay Rays, he's a pitcher and he's a infielder. So he's probably going to get some opportunity to play second base as well. I mean, a guy who now with a 26-man roster can really, add value. I mean, he can pitch and he can play infield and he can, hit fairly well. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do with him. Also, Owen Miller is another player in the Padres system that, they're definitely going to be looking at, maybe seeing if he can crack the opening day roster. Jurickson Profar is definitely going to have every opportunity to earn the second base job. I mean, obviously coming from the Rangers organization where A.J. Preller had his start, A.J. Preller has kind of been having his eye on Jurickson Profar for a very, very long time and been really trying to bring him over to the Padres, and he finally was able to do that.
Yeah, I looked at Owen Miller a little bit and Cronenworth too. Yeah, interesting prospects, interesting guys. I don't know about Owen Miller. He's kind of like a hybrid, like shortstop, third, second base.
I mean,
second base arm doesn't play, but
right, and shortstop and third base are sewed up for the next 10 years plus. So, nobody on that side of the field. And, I mean, hey, can we talk about that, guys? I mean, one of the best left sides of the infield in baseball. I mean, some of the things Manny Machado can do on the defensive side, man, it's fun to watch him play. And, obviously, Fernando Tatis Jr. is an absolutely incredible phenom-type player who knows what he could have been able to produce if he was able to play an entire year. I mean, one of the most electrifying players in baseball last year.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
He was actually one of my favorite players, like besides like not on the Yankees. So.
Yeah, I mean, hey guys, I mean, tagging up with a pop up to the infield. I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody do that? I mean, that's incredible instincts and speed and just, that just, I don't care attitude. This guy, watching him run the bases, I mean, most guys you're like, okay, well, he got on base, whatever. But this is a guy you have to stay locked into whenever he's on the baseball field. I mean, he can make an incredible catch. He can throw somebody out. He has a rocket arm. He can hit home runs. He can hit for average. He can run blazing fast. I mean, absolutely an incredible player to watch, and he can do it all on the baseball field. One of the last very, very true 5-tool players.
Yeah, dude is definitely a talent. I want to see him all year. I like to see him because what's going to happen now too is, of course, we've seen like Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna. We're getting, as baseball fans, we're getting spoiled with these 20-year-olds coming up.
Definitely.
19-year-olds, 20-year-olds coming up and just like tearing up the major leagues. You know what I mean? So we saw that last year with Tatis when he came up. He's like, this dude's playing shortstop, and he's tearing it up. He's running the bases. He's hitting home runs. He's doing all this stuff. Unfortunately, he got his season cut short. But I can't wait to see a whole season of Tatis next year. And Soto and Acuna, like all these young guys coming into the major. This is great. It's great. And
Also, go ahead.
I hope this is the excitement. I mean, I'm excited about that. Screw all this scandal and all this stuff going on in the offseason. Once baseball starts, man, I want to see some players. I want to see some good games. I want to see talent.
Yeah, let's bring the spotlight back on the field and let's feature these young guys and let them take us into the next generation of baseball instead of focusing on cheaters who have cheapened the game with their actions. Let's focus on the young guys that are making the game better and more exciting to watch.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And like with Tatis, I think if he played the whole season, it would have made for definitely way more interesting like Rookie of the Year race.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with that. And honestly, I think he probably could have won that award just because he's just more multiple, I mean, Pete Alonso's great, hitting 50 plus home runs is wonderful, right? But I mean, Tatis Jr. probably could have hit 40. He probably could have hit 40, probably could have, put, 300 plus, average. I mean, a high on base percentage. He could have had 30 plus steals. I mean, his overall body of work, if he was able to play a full season, was probably going to be more impressive than just the home run output. I mean, and I think if you go war for war, I mean, in that situation, I think Tatis is probably standing on top of the hill, on top of Pete Alonso. But, I mean, hey, he got hurt. Pete Alonso, went on a tear, hit a bunch of home runs. He deserved to win the award. I mean, that's just how it unfolded. Now, in year 2, let's see who comes out. And of course, now that these guys have played baseball, there's tape on them, right? I mean, they know what these guys are capable of doing. They're going to have to make adjustments. They're going to have to show that they can make adjustments at the highest level. I mean, this is it. I mean, this is Major League Baseball. So, I mean, they're going to adjust to you, and now you have to adjust back.
Yeah, and that's why we always look at the sophomore slump, just about any sport, but especially baseball. I mean, when they see you have a weakness for slider inside, curveball on the outside, and there's so much involved now, so much scouting, and so much video and everything like that. Houston Astros notwithstanding in game, but there's so much stuff that goes on now that. I agree with you. There's going to be tape on these guys, and they're going to be looking at it, and each pitcher is going to be like, all right, well, I can exploit this, I can exploit that. Like you said, it's a matter of adjustments. In-game adjustments from one at-bat to the other. It's such a grind, baseball, that is really – it's really difficult. It's really difficult for these guys to replicate what they do.
Yeah,
but it was impressive – talking about like the 20-year-olds and stuff, like what was impressive about like Soto and Acuna, guys like that who can actually replicate like this following year. They had great rookies. Acuna was the rookie of the year, Soto finished second, and then this year they were both great again, which is like, wow, this is amazing. These guys are actually the real deal now. But you have to prove it the second year.
Yeah, no question. So, you've did a little bit of research on the Padres. You kind of watched them a little bit. What do you think they need? What else do they need to take them over the top? What is missing from, the equation, the recipe right now to get them back to the playoffs for the first time in 14 years?
Alex, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would say just like what Johnny was mentioning before, I think they needed more consistent hitting. They need, like you said, they kind of like have a short lineup. They don't really have, the hitting from top to bottom. And I think they need like a couple extra bats. They need to get rid of like the older guys, like we mentioned earlier with Hosmer, Will Myers. I think if they, trade away them, get younger, I think they'll be set to, make a run. So I think that's what they need is just more hitting. Their pitching looks pretty solid right now. So I think just hitting is what they need.
Unfortunately, Hosmer's not going anywhere. He has a no trade clause. Okay. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. What do you think? What do you think they need?
I think they need a bat. I think they need a big bat.
Another bat?
Machado's good. I'll give him that. But he's their big bat.
Yeah.
Tatis could be. Maybe he is, and maybe he will turn into that. But other than that, Manuel Margot, Tommy Pham. I mean, and Tommy Pham is a good player and everything, but he's not, he's not anyone that he doesn't scare anybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like he's a good player, solid 5-tool, solid 5-tool player, but no one that's scaring. He's not scaring anybody. There's no one in that lineup that if I were an opposing pitcher, there's no one in that lineup that scares me.
You're not scared of Machado? You're not scared of Tatis Jr.? I mean, I don't know about that.
Tatis, can he do it another year? Got hurt last year. Is he going to get hurt again?
That's fair criticism. Yeah.
Just questioning. I'm not saying he is or isn't. I mean, it's an unfair assessment to say he's injury prone because he got hurt his first year in the major league.
Right.
I wouldn't say that. All I'm saying is he did it for a half of a season.
Yeah. Yeah. Show me again. Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, no, that's fair.
Hosmer, I don't think is anything special. I mean, he's not. He's really not that great. He's decent.
I'm not over the moon about that signing, but I mean, if he can, it's just his ground ball rate is just unbelievable. I mean, if he can hit just more line drives, then I mean, he can make contact enough to where he can hit 300 plus. I mean, he's done it before. I mean, he just, and he's a good, first, defensive first baseman, but, defensive metrics for first basemen murder first baseman. So, I mean, they don't really get any value there, which I think is messed up. They need another way to reevaluate that because I think he's helped there. I mean, he had a bad year his first year. He had an okay year last year. I'm still looking for more production out of him. I mean, and to be a first baseman in the National League, you got to hit 30 plus home runs, and he hasn't shown the ability to do that quite yet for the Padres. So right now the investment's not looking too great. But I mean, they're kind of stuck with him, like I mentioned. So we'll have to see what he's able to do this year. And, there's a lot of money that he has on his contract. So, I mean, just because he has a no trade, or not a no trade, just because, he does have an opt out, I don't think he's going to take it. And the Padres are going to have to try to trade him if they want to get rid of him, and they're going to have to eat some money, I would imagine, to make that move happen. So I think they're going to be stuck with him for a while. But yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I think that they need another imposing force in the middle of the lineup, just to add some more length and to add some more danger, so to speak. But I mean, I think they have some prospects that could help in that. For me, I just think they need some more output from the starting pitching. I mean, it's been a long time since the Padres have had 4 plus guys in the starting rotation that can pick up the ball and dominate on any given night. I mean, it's always kind of been okay. Let's see what they're going to do. I mean, I'm a little scared, and also a little optimistic because I mean it could go one way or another, but. It's consistency is where you win baseball games, and unfortunately the Padres haven't had that. So add a bat, add some more potential to the starting rotation, and I think they got some pieces to make a run. I mean, I think this year, if they improve, let's say 10 to 14 games, I think that would be something, more along the lines of what I would be looking for. I know the ownership group is expecting them to compete this year. And, if not, there's some heads that are going to roll. So that's why I say I don't think they're done making moves. I do think Adrian Pillar's seat is starting to get a little bit warm. I don't think it's hot at this point, but next year I think the real window is going to open. I mean, that's when, Luis Patino and Mackenzie Gore and Taylor Trammell and all these other guys are going to be up. And not only I think they're all going to be up this year, but I think next year is when they're really going to take over, and they're going to have a lot of talent, and it's they're really going to have an ability to be able to challenge the Dodgers for the first time in many, many years.
I definitely agree with that. I think this year, I could definitely see a 500 record this year. They with 70 wins last year, and like you said, the improvement. I think 81 and 81. I could definitely see it. I could even see if things fall right. I could see 85 to 90 wins if things fall right. Because honestly, if talent wise, I might even put the San Diego Padres, especially with their pitching staff, if things go well. They're probably the second best team in the NL West.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Giants horrible. The Giants
Yeah.
are horrible.
Definitely. And old.
Yeah. And Arizona, they have some pieces there, but I don't know.
But they signed Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah. Oh, that's a savior. Yeah. And the whole argument with him is that he's a playoff god. Well, you got to make the playoffs first.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the Colorado Rockies are obviously up and down every single year.
Yeah.
They don't know how to handle prospects at all.
No, at all.
Because they have had Brendan Rodgers, Ryan McMahon, and Garrett Hampson. Are these all these guys 30 by now? I mean, they've had these prospects for forever, and they don't play.
No question about it. So, I mean, yeah.
I could definitely see the Padres. I just think, like I said before, if the pitching goes well with Lamet, Paddock, Lucchesi, Zach Davies, with those four guys as solid top four, solid, no aces. Although Paddock, I think, could be an ace.
He has ace potential for sure.
Definitely does. He's an ace stuff. And then you got Matt Strahm. And then, with Gore and Patino waiting in the wings, they have a solid staff. We already covered the bullpen with Yates, Munoz, Stamen, and Pomeranz. It's fine. It's great. And Yates, especially on a contract year, that dude's going to get paid.
He deserves it.
Yeah, of course. But
Definitely.
It's the lineup. The lineup does not scare me. I'm sorry. When you have Machado, Tatis, Hosmer as your main guy, I don't know. They need someone at second and someone at catcher. I mean, I like Austin Hedges with his defense and everything, but he can't hit his way out of a paper bag.
Right. He can't hit his body weight. And yeah, that's the big problem for Austin Hedges.
A kid, I don't know if you checked him out. I was looking at
Luis Campusano, yes.
Yeah. Dude looked hit.
Yeah, he's a monster too. He's a giant catcher, and he can hit. And I mean, obviously, he's probably a couple of years away, which is probably why they're kind of waiting. They do have Francisco Mejia, which is a great offensive catcher. He's a switch-in catcher, has a rocket arm. He's not quite as good with the defense, but the more you kind of pair him with Austin Hedges, I think he can get better. I mean, the thing is Austin Hedges makes pitchers better because he steals a lot of strikes, more strikes than any catcher in the big leagues. Yeah. And when robot umps eventually come around, that's going to take his value away completely. So he needs to earn his money and make his impact while he can. But yeah, I mean, if he can't hit, I'm sorry, I don't care how good your defense is, you're not going to be playing a lot. So I would expect this year that the catching situation is really going to be more 75-25 with Mejia taking the majority of the reps, because you just have to get more production from the catching position. I mean, for me, I don't care if you hit 220, 230, but at least give me something. I mean, give me some kind of production. And Austin Hedges, a couple years ago, he hit, 15, 20 home runs, which was great. But last year, he was awful. I mean, he just didn't make any adjustments, couldn't hit the ball. It was really, really bad. And yeah, I agree with you. If they get some production at catcher, if they figure out who's playing second base and they get some production there. And I think if at the All-Star break, they are competitive, or at the trade deadline, they will go out and make a move and get that bat that they're looking for. I do think that they're at a point right now, and A.J. Preller is at a point right now where they built the farm system up to a level to where they can spend out of it and still really not get, thinned too much. They have just so much talent up and down their organization that, if the time is right, they have the pieces to make a move for pretty much anyone. And I think, if they're there at the deadline, they will make that move.
Yeah, as long as there's no one named Gore, Patino, or Abrams.
Yeah, none of those guys are going anywhere. And it's funny, whenever anybody tries to bring up a trade offer online or on Twitter, and any of those names are included, it's an automatic non-starter. The Padres are not going to trade any one of those guys. So if you guys are listening to this right now, which I know you are, do not ask for Gore, Patino, or Abrams. The answer is an unequivocal no Okay, it's not going to happen. Just don't waste your energy.
Yeah,
Right.
I hear that, man. I look at that with, just throw the Twins thing in there. I look at that with Royce Lewis, Alex Kirilloff, like some of the top prospects. I'm like, yeah, no. I know we need pitching and all, but yeah, no.
Right.
Not,
Well, it's one of the situations where, a GM picks up and says, "Hey, what's up, AJ? Oh, nothing. I was just thinking about what I can do for Gore." Click. Sorry, it's not going to happen. I mean, those top prospects are. I mean, they're there for a reason, and they're protected because we know, the Padres organization know, the fans know that these are guys that are going to make an impact and help the Padres win games. And you don't trade talented guys like that. But fortunately for the Padres, like I mentioned, they have one of the best farm systems in baseball, so they got plenty of talent to spend through. And now it's time to start, I guess, trading some of that potential for proven major league impact.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Throw the Yankees one in there too. Is last year when they were talking about maybe trading for Stroman, some people were mentioning, Gleyber Torres. It's like, as soon as you mention Gleyber Torres, that's it. Like,
Right? Yeah. Just shut your mouth. I mean, we're not trading Gleyber Torres. Just stop.
Yeah.
I get it.
Torres,
Trust me.
established major leaguer. It's like worse. Like, why would you even try for that? Some of those trades you see on Twitter and stuff like that. Just these people have no grasp.
Yeah, well, I mean, they read an article or they see a video of a guy and they're like, "Oh, I want him," but they don't really, read the context or know the context behind why these guys are untouchables. I mean, it's just, you got to do a little more research, and then you'll understand why. Obviously, they want to hold on and covet these guys, but. So my prediction for the record for the Padres this year, I think they are quite a bit better than they were last year, and I think that is going to show. I think Machado getting another year to not have to worry about where he's going to go play baseball, to get into his offseason program, to not have to worry about flying to dinners and meeting owners and all that stuff. He knows where he's going to play ball for the next hopefully 9 years, that he's going to have a bounce back season. He's going to come in, he's going to be comfortable, he's going to, be himself. He's going to be Manny. I mean, and that's what the Padres paid for, and that's what they need. So I think, that with hopefully a healthy Fernando Tatis Jr. and some production out of the starting rotation, I think the Padres can get to, I'd say, 82 wins. I think 82 is going to be the magic number. And if that happens, for one, I don't think I'll be happy, but I think I will be okay with that. I'll be realistic. Normally, I'm a very optimistic person, and I'd love to throw out something outlandish like 95, 96, but I don't believe that. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go 82 wins for the Padres, and if they do that, then I'll see that as a somewhat of a win.
Yeah, I'll have to go with 81 and 81. I'm going to go with an even 500 record for the Padres because I agree with Dave what you said. I mean, I can see their pitching staff really taking off. Machado's going to bump it up a little bit. Like you said, it's the offseason stuff last year and everything. And if Tatis is healthy, I just like we said before, I love their bullpen. I like their starting staff. I don't like the lineup, but they are overall probably the second best team in the NL West. And I can see them finishing around 500. So I'm going to go 81.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I think that, if they, Machado's going to take a step up, he'll be definitely put up more production. I think Tatis, if he stays healthy, like you guys said too, I think he'll put up a really good season and be, put himself as one of the phenoms in the game and up there with Soto. And I think just like Johnny, you just said with the pitching, I think their pitching is going to take a step forward as well. And, with their bullpen is obviously really strong, especially with the Yates in the back end. And, I agree with Johnny too. Just with their hitting, I think they do need, some more hitting. I don't really trust their lineup either. So, but I do think they're going to end up around that same mark. I'm going to go with I'll go with like 84 wins. I'm gonna go a step above David, 84.
All right.
Everything pans the right way. I think that's what they go.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun, guys. I mean, I always love talking sports, talking some baseball here, some Padres baseball to be more specific. So I really appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, of course, no problem. And if you want to go ahead and like plug your stuff too, if you like all your other stuff that you do.
Yeah. So I'm on my podcast. It's the Friar Domination Live podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at FriarDomPod, or you can find me on Twitter at ddro619. I talk about all sports, no matter if it's not San Diego related. I mean, I'm pretty well versed in everything, so definitely hit me with the follow. I will follow you back. Also, if you're a football fan, I also do the Locked On Chargers podcast for the Locked On Podcast Network. We put out a show 4 to 5 times a week, even in the off season. So we're gonna keep you guys entertained and informed with everything that's going on about the Chargers. But looking forward to what the Padres are going to be able to do this season. I'm excited. I mean, they have a lot of young talent. Hopefully, we get to see some of that talent at Petco Park this year.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be a good season for major leagues. I'm excited. I'm excited for just get past all this nonsense with the Astros. I want it to just be over already. We've been through it. It just get over it and then just move on. It's in the past now. We just go on with the season.
Definitely. Let's get the brawny paper towel and wipe up the stain and get rid of that and focus on enjoying some really good baseball here to come in 2020.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming on the show. It's another great podcast, and make sure you check out all the podcasts on every podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. So check all the episodes out that we've done so far with all the teams, and we will be continuing the podcast tomorrow. We're actually going to be recording the Pirates one. Me and Johnnie will be doing it with Joey Bag of Donuts, so that'll be a fun one. And yeah, just a reminder, you can never have too much pod tar.